challenging her impeachment mechanisms as the court describes the action as an abuse of the court processes. We are live in court for the update. Also coming up, growing calls for the immediate interdiction of military officers identified in viral video assaulting Joy News reporter Carlos Caloni and a civilian.
We are hearing national security matters on issues that are just completely embarrassing.
Just as we did in other cases where you took civil action, some action has to be taken. If it won't be handled in Ghana, we should be going to the ECOWAS Human Rights Court.
More as he asks the National Media Commission to be proactive in handling such cases against journalists.
This NMC, we don't push it that much, and it's really disheartening.
In Parliament, current and former roads ministers clash over which government has built more roads, plus the former minister's insistence that Accra and Kumasi roads be prioritized.
I believe that this big push project is not the first time we're doing roads, but it's an expression of the commitment of this government to make a major dent in the road infrastructure deficit of this country. We plan to do more.
We have details as Parliament approves government request to dedicate all oil revenues and mineral royalties to finance the Big Push program.
You build roads where there are human beings, a lot of densely populated people. So you think that just because there are more people in Accra and Kumasi, we should spend all our money in Accra and Kumasi? Okay.
And in sports,
Ghana Football Association announces major cash injection for Premier League clubs ahead of the new season.
Suspect of a motorcycle dead after his testicles were cut off by an angry mob in Ewutu, Bojiase. We have details for you. And later in the bulletin, thinking of arguing with your wife? President Mahama says, don't even try it. You have already lost.
And I said, yes, it has lasted because of you. And I thank God for your life. I couldn't have got a better wife than you. She looked at me and she said, are you correct? Did you wake up well? So, never argue with your wife.
More as the president jokingly recalls a light-hearted argument with his wife about who deserved credit for sustaining their marriage. These and more with me, Pearl Ofori. This is Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible. In our first story, embattled Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu has suffered another major legal setback in her bid to stop impeachment mechanisms as a human rights court in Accra strikes out her entire application for judicial review. The suspended Chief Justice had filed the motion seeking to challenge the legality of the ongoing process. However, in a ruling delivered today, the court dismissed the originating motion in its entirety, further complicating the efforts to hold the proceedings. My colleague Kenneth Jesse is in court for us and joins me with more. Kenneth, what exactly did the court say in striking out the Chief Justice's application? We do not have Kenneth Jesse on the line. We'll move on to other stories and the calls for the immediate. We have Kenneth Jesse on the line.
Hello.
We have Kenneth Jesse on the line. Kenneth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, Ken, what exactly did the court say in striking out the Chief Justice's application? Was there any explanation given in court at all?
Yes, there was. But before we go to the explanation, a brief background of this particular case. So, the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu had filed the judicial review application to halt impeachment proceedings. She claimed are false and unconstitutional, and she argued that the Committee of Inquiry, for instance, failed to serve her with proper documentation. They also violated natural justice and acted beyond its legal mandate. So, in delivering the ruling today, Justice Mafo recounted the reliefs sought by the Chief Justice and addressed the substantive legal arguments raised by both parties. And the court noted that portions of the reliefs were already before the Supreme Court or had been adjudicated by it. And as such, the court held that pursuing the same issues before the High Court constituted an abuse of court processes and ordered those parts struck out. Now, the court held that the entire originating motion had no merit and then dismissed it in its entirety, citing both abuse process and lack of jurisdiction. Now, a notable part of the ruling addressed an objection which was raised by the Chief Justice's legal team against an affidavit which was filed by Reginald Odoi, who deposed to statements on behalf of the applicant. And the court subsequently rejected the argument that Mr. Odoi lacked authority or the consent from the other applicants to speak on their behalf. And it found no record of any formal disclaimer from the applicant disowning the affidavit, and thus deemed their disposition valid. And the court described the objection as incompetent, frivolous, and then went ahead to dismiss it.
Very well, but what was the general mood in court like today after the ruling?
Well, so neither the applicant, that is Justice Getsu Tokonu, nor the respondent, the Attorney General, was present in court during the ruling, but the suspended Chief Justice was represented by a counsel, that is Kwabena Dukusi, and then also the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Trimsai, appeared on behalf of the state. None of them spoke to the media. It was a packed court, and due to how small the human rights court was, there were people seated outside. The mood was very calm. If you didn't know that there was a case ongoing, you wouldn't know that something was happening there.
Kenneth Jesse, thank you very much. We have another court case, and it involves the Office of the Special Prosecutor and the former Finance Minister, Ken Ofori. Joy News editor Elton John Broby joins me in the studio to give us details on that. Elton, what does it say?
So the High Court Criminal Division has just dismissed an application by the former Finance Minister, Ken Ofori, seeking to strike out a warrant issued for his arrest by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Mr. Ofori had argued that the OSP unlawfully obtained the warrant and asked the court to set aside all related proceedings, including an Interpol red alert. However, the court this morning ruled that the application lacked merit and dismissed it in its entirety.
Elton, thank you very much for that update. Away from the court, the calls for the immediate interdiction of military officers seen in a viral video physically assaulting Joy News reporter Carlos Coloni and a civilian during the demolition of McDonald warehouses at Spintex in Accra has intensified. Carlos was interviewing an eyewitness when officers pounced on the civilian, beating and slapping him for speaking to the media. Carlos was himself struck twice in the neck with a clenched fist by one of the officers. The operatives pushed over the mounted camera, causing significant damage, seized Carlos's phones and forced him into a vehicle, driven to the National Security Installation at Bluegate, where he was detained, but released only after personal intervention from the Ministry of Interior. Now, the Ghana Armed Forces, which has described the incident as inappropriate conduct, has indicated it is investigating the matter, but that is not enough for the public and some groups which are outraged about the incident. Let's hear from the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Albert Kwabena Jumfo, who says such actions must not be glossed over.
That we are getting somewhere. Just for us, in the span of 2 weeks, record 4 attacks. This is unprecedented, and we are saying that it's very scary. And we are going to make our positions known. We believe that the president immediately must direct the arrest and interdiction of these security officers who perpetrated this attack immediately. Even though he said, in as much as we commend them for the statement issued, we believe that the immediate step is to call the arrest and interdiction before investigation can even start.
Well, the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima, has described the action of the officers as criminal and believes immediate action against them will serve as a deterrent to others.
I think over time we are hearing national security matters on issues that are just completely embarrassing. And the earlier these things are stopped, the better. I haven't reached out to the military high command yet, but that is something that we'll do, except to say that I've had very respectable generals reach out to say that they themselves are quite disappointed with the statement that was issued yesterday by the military, because what happened didn't happen in a secret. We are not speculating. It is not an allegation that Carlos was assaulted. This happened in the open. Videos have been seen. There is no point in the military trying to pretend that, well, they don't know the officers or officer involved. And sometimes yes, I should say you don't want to take actions that will demoralize the military. But if you also allow indisciplined conduct to fester, you only basically would be promoting acts of indiscipline within the same military institution. And so we can only look forward to realistic action being taken rather than this peripheral statement that we are investigating. What exactly are they investigating? What has happened in Ablekuma? We saw the immediate action on the part of the police. The officer was interdicted. And that gives some sense of, hope that this is an institution that is really committed when it comes to discipline. So we look forward to exact measures that will be taken.
Well, citing many other similar incidents by soldiers which goes unpunished, coordinator of the Media Foundation Against Galamsey, Ken Ashigbe, says the video serves as enough evidence for the military hierarchy to have acted speedily.
It really is very heart-wrenching to see these things happen. And it's just because this impunity goes unpunished. We have several examples of these things that happen. And then the last one that happened just before this, what happened at Ablekuma North? What has happened to that policeman? We are told of interdiction, and it's all clouded in secrecy, and nothing happens. That there's the situation of even your colleague who was beaten up by the police at the police headquarters. What happened to that? The police told us that, there's no CCTV footage of that. So it is important that in this one and in the rest of them, we demand transparency from the authorities in terms of the way the punishments are done. And so the military, yes, it's good that the statement has been issued, but what happens after today, we need to be kept, in the know. And we should get to the point where, just as we did in other cases, especially multimedia, where you took civil action, some action has to be taken. We need to be taking these cases. If it won't be handled in Ghana, we should be going to the ECOWAS Human Rights Court.
Let's go to Parliament now. And the Roads and Highways Minister, Kwame Governs Abuja, clashed with former Minister of the Sector, Francis Asensio-Boakye, on Wednesday in Parliament. One Mr. Asensio-Boakye criticized government's big push agenda as a mere political gimmick. Francis Asensio-Boakye had also said instead of prioritizing Accra and Kumasi, the government is building roads in places with almost no human beings, a position which angered the current minister. Listen.
The greatest of respects, this so much talked about push is neither balanced nor big nor strategic. I say this because I believe strongly that it's just a political program rather than economic efficient program. One, Mr. Speaker, the list of programs of roads is heavily skewed towards certain regions in the country, completely neglecting Greater Accra region and Ashanti region. For me, that is not fair to the country. That is not strategic, because you build roads where there are human beings, a lot of densely populated people, communities. You build roads which will connect economic centers that will drive economic development and economic growth. Basic economic theory teaches us that when resources are scarce, when you are in financial constraints, you prioritize. And that's exactly that's what I'm saying. If my opponents don't understand this, I don't know what else they will understand. You issued a statement saying that we are saying that President Akufo-Addo, we are trying to rubbish President Akufo-Addo's record of 10,800 kilometers. You were not here. He was standing here and said, we have built 10,800 kilometers of new roads, and he was doing us like that. Remind him. And I fact-checked him. What the president said here was untrue. Yes, he never built 10,800 kilometers of new roads. My brother, you see, you have been a road minister for the Republic of Ghana. Is it just a small advice? The road minister of Republic of Ghana, it doesn't sit well where all your examples appears as if you haven't been to any other place in the country. It doesn't look well. Yes, I agree. Accra Kumasi have the biggest volume of traffic in the country. But when you give the impression that just because that is the biggest volume. What about the farmer growing yam in Yendi? Yes. Don't we have to take a road there to convey the yam for us to consume in Accra?
Meanwhile, the House has approved the request by government to dedicate all oil revenues and mineral royalties to finance the Big Push program. It follows a report by the Joint Committees on Budget and Finance for the multi-year commitment for selected road projects under the 13.8 billion CD Big Push Phase 1 program to be approved. In all, government is seeking to spend about 70 billion cedis on Big Push by 2028. Majority Leader Mahama Yariga praised the initiative as the biggest investment in the road sector yet.
I believe that this Big Push project is not the first time we are doing roads, but it's an expression of the commitment of this government to make a major dent in the road infrastructure deficit of this country. We plan to do more. He was asking where we're pushing. We're pushing on all the roads of this country. That's where we're going to push. When we finally finish fixing the financial mess that we have inherited, and we sort out the debts that we have inherited, and we begin to make significant savings, I can assure you that your complaint about discrimination will be addressed.
Joining us now, our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kwekwa Sente. Now, Kwekwa, was the minority supportive of this effort?
Well, the report from the two committees came out in a unanimous fashion. So the minority did not oppose the plan of government to reallocate all these resources to build roads. The minority leader, however, had concerns about the priority of the government and the policies they are building issues. Listen to it.
If somebody says that I am aggregating, putting everything together under my administration, and I've done 13,000 kilometers, and as a result of that, even pothole patching have been included, what is wrong with it? Because you and I know that a lot of our roads are immotorable because of the state of the roads. So if you fix them and you are adding that to your achievement, there's nothing wrong, with respect. With respect, and you agree with me. Concerns of the minority has to do with the uneven distribution of these roads. I have seen the list, quite a number of them. Sometimes we, the politicians, we try to pretend, but the reality is always a reality. Some of these roads were started under Akufo-Addo. They've not been completed. You are continuing. That is governance, and I agree. I will not stand here and critique you for that. But it should not be created, the impression should not be created as though it is a certain big push, big push, big push. What are you pushing?
You hear the excerpts from what happened in Parliament today. Now we are moving to other stories, and President John Mahama says his administration is committed to fast-tracking work on the Petroleum Hub project in the Western region. Speaking during a courtesy call by the Western Region House of Chiefs, the president revealed that he has directed for a renegotiation of the land acquired from the traditional landowners, explaining that the government intends to relinquish portions of the excess land taken for the project. While in 2020, the government under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo announced an ambitious plan to establish Africa's first petroleum hub. Some residents say the planned acquisition of land threatens to displace thousands of them and farmers, many dependent on cocoa farms, fishing and agriculture in the Jomoro area. Have a listen.
We intend to fast-track work on the petroleum hub in order to attract investors to the Western region and create jobs for our young people. I've directed the minister in charge to renegotiate the issue of the land acquired from the landowners. Our aim is to relinquish the excess land that was acquired for the project and pay adequate compensation for the land that we are going to put to use. We believe that 5,000 can comfortably start the project, and then we can acquire any other land as and when we need it, instead of tying down 20,000 hectares of the land of our people.
And that was President John Dramani Mahama. You're listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. We are back with more stories.
when budgets are tight and money difficult to come by. You want to be sure you get the best value for your money. These are not times to be spending money fixing expensive engine problems because of cheap fuel and lubricants. Drive to a petrol source station today and buy your quality fuel and lubricants, and rest assured of fuel that lasts long and lubricants that prevent expensive engine problems. Hear the sound. Petrosol, clean fuel in full quantity.
When I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth with Kale Charcoal toothpaste. This gives me confidence all day.
Anytime you meet Amma, don't be surprised I smile showing my beautiful white teeth because I don't have cavity thanks to Kale Charcoal toothpaste for its natural charcoal properties. In fact, we are like twins. I can't go without my Kale Charcoal toothpaste.
That be why I dey use Kale Charcoal toothpaste morning and night when I dey go bed safe. It dey make my teeth white when it dey comot every scent from my mouth inside. My confidence level they go up, so I dey show my 32 teeth all.
Introducing the Kale Charcoal toothpaste, formulated with activated bamboo charcoal powder, ensures whiter teeth and removes bad breath. The strong natural property of the activated bamboo charcoal removes bacteria, absorbs surface stains on our teeth caused by coffee, wines, and tobacco. Welcome, Kale Charcoal toothpaste. Kale Charcoal toothpaste, Sankofa Yenchi.
Kale, happy smile.
This advert is FDA approved.
Wherever you are, the game is nothing without you. It's on like never before this season. Every major league, every cup, every qualifier, the players, Kudus, Semenyo, Iñaki, the goals, the emotions, and the bragging rights. It's all on SuperSport, available on DSTV and GoTV. Get your DSTV decoder at 89 cedis and GoTV decoder at 399 cedis. DSTV, your home of entertainment. Go TV. Love it.
Involving the Football Association, the government, and Adisa Productions.
Through this unique partnership with Adisa Productions, each one of our GPL clubs will, before the start of the league season, receive the amount of 1 million Ghana cedis each. And this will be made possible through the new partnership. This will be our minimum payment for each of our GPL clubs under this new model. This is not a grant. This is not a number. It is the firm commitment by the Football Association, by Adisa Productions, and by the government, represented here by our Chief of Staff, to ensure that Ghana football becomes what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's GFA President Kurt Okreku talking about the 1 million Ghana cedis, more or less like a reward to the Premier League clubs.
Thank you very much, Mubarak, for the latest in the world of sports. Now, television broadcaster and former board chairman of the Ghana Airport Company Limited, Paul Adamotri, has strongly criticized what he describes as a witch hunt by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, following attempts to link him to a financial assurance agreement between the Ghana Airport Company and private technology firm Evertech. In a public response, Paul Adamotri rejected any suggestion of wrongdoing in the deal, stating that the arrangement was above board and in line with standard corporate governance procedures. Paul Adamotri is expected to make an appearance at 3 p.m. today, but he's already fighting the office.
It was Manasseh Azuri who told me that the contract had been signed by the managing director on 4th of December, 4 days or 3 days to election. And I said, well, okay, I don't know. I didn't know. This conversation is about 2 weeks ago. I didn't know whether the contract has been signed. I didn't find out whether the contract has been signed because it's not necessary. The board has finished its work. Whatever management does, if the management need the board again, they'll come back to the board. If there's a new board, management will come back to the new board and say, the old board did this is the problem we have, so resolve it. When the management is doing contracts, they are doing their PPA contracts under the law. They don't come to the board. They only come to the board when the threshold is beyond. And now the Kisi Ajabe and the OSP are calling people at the airport campaign. We've heard all kinds of things, telling them that did board chairman tell you to do this? Are you sure it's not board chairman who told you to do this? Very bizarre interviews that they've had over this matter. Everybody goes and they tell them, did you know the board chairman? Did the board? And they come out telling their lawyers that, we don't understand. Why are they talking about board chairman? They've had conversations with the managing director. They've had conversations with most of the managers. They've seen the board minutes. Manasseh Azuri has seen the board minutes. Letters that have been written about this issue from the company to the management. It is Manasseh Azuri who tells me. But anyway, the OSP insists that we have to come there today at 3 o'clock. Every lawyer is telling me, look, they want you to come at 3 o'clock and then they will detain you. They may arrest you. They will say, go and bring this. They will say bail. And one lawyer told me that how much is the money involved in that? I said, there's no money involved. Enjoy. This is a pure witch hunt from Kisi Ajabe. But anyway, Kisi Ajabe says we cannot postpone it. We have to come to his office today. So we are going to his office today to see it, to listen to him.
We have more on this, and Joy News editor Elton John Broby joins me in the studio. Elton, what more are we learning?
So we do know that lawyers for Paul Adomotri, and they are from Akufo-Addo and Prempeh and Co-Chamber, they requested a postponement of this meeting, but the OSP rejected it. So this meeting is happening at 3 p.m. And so that's what we were waiting to see.
Okay, so in the public comment by Paul Adomotri, he mentioned that he has already provided some answers to investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri Awuni, who is also investigating same. What has Manasseh's response been to what Paul Adomotri has been saying so far?
So Manasseh admits that indeed there's been some communication between him and Paul Adomotri, but he makes the point that in distancing yourself, in this case, you're referring to Paul Adomotri from the contract. You claimed on your show this morning that you didn't know the owners of the company that won what Manasseh describes as the shady contract. And he says, Paul, this is false. You have admitted to me not once but twice that you knew the owners of the company from the very beginning. I have evidence of this. I also have evidence a year before that company, which one eventually won the contract, came to the board meeting. You chaired the Ghana Airport Company board. You had also met those behind the company. So, Paul, it is a lie if you claim you didn't know the owners of the company that won the contract. It's a long, reaction to this particular matter, and it's on his social media handle.
Well, thank you very much, Elton John Broby, for that. Of course, we'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. Now, there's an interesting one. Thinking of arguing with your wife? President Mahama says, don't even try it. According to the president, one of the top survival skills in marriage is simple. Never argue with your wife. Speaking after a delegation from the Western Region House of Chiefs visited and later presented him with gifts to mark his 33rd wedding anniversary, he jokingly recalled a light-hearted argument with his wife about who deserved credit for sustaining their marriage. In the end, he said he gave up and let her win the argument. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
It's just an American comrade, call me comrade.
The president of the Western Regional House of Chiefs, Nana Kwabena Nketia V, who also serves as the paramount chief of the Sikado traditional area, speaking at the forecourt of the Jubilee House. He's leading a delegation to pay a courtesy call on the president here at the presidency. But the chiefs and the delegation didn't come empty-handed. It also happened to be President Mahama's 33rd anniversary, and the delegation brought gifts to mark the occasion.
These days, marriages last 1 year, maximum is 5 years. For the past 10 years, marriages for them don't last long.
That was when the president shared a secret, his golden rule for a lasting marriage: never argue with your wife. The real victory in marriage isn't in winning the debate, but knowing when to lovingly surrender.
Is to try not to argue with your wife. And I'll tell you a very funny story. When we achieved 30 years of marriage, it was a big celebration. We were sitting in our pastor's office after church, and we're talking about the celebration that was coming, 30 years of marriage. And so my wife started saying that, Pastor, don't you see, 30 years of marriage, this marriage has survived because of me. Otherwise, this man, who would want to marry him? I made the mistake of arguing and saying, oh, the marriage is survived because of me. I am the calm one, I'm the patient one. That's why the marriage has reached 30 years. And we're arguing. My pastor was looking at me in a very funny way. And so when we finished and we're walking to the car, He called me aside and said, "Why were you wasting your time? You know you can never win that argument." I cut it short, but I learned a lesson.
Of course, to the man, you never argue with your wife because you never win. And it's time for what's trending on social media. And Jackie is here.
Yes, Pearl. I mean, my husband caught me off guard there. But then that Lumba is still in the trends. Okay. A lot of people talking about him. But today, it's been about the comparison between him and the late pop legend Michael Jackson.
Interesting.
Yes, a lot of people are saying that he's had a lot of achievement. And if Michael Jackson were to be a Ghanaian, I mean, he wouldn't be compared to that Lumba. One quick comment here. So, Madison says that imagine Michael Jackson in Ghana, hustling studio time, flying out of Germany just for quality and proper sound, and still releasing 25 albums. You praise the grind. DL did exactly that from a less resourced environment. He's in that league. Face it. I mean, that argument and banter on that on social media, and of course, many more.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And that's how we end the midday news on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Pearl Ofori. Living Word with Pastor Mensa Otabil is next. But enjoy.